how far will the project go? I think that kind of thinking is something that we need more in the sector. I still see a lot of projects, great projects, but largely driven by passion, but not by logical thinking. So like it needs to be both of them.
The social economic development of a country is usually known to be driven by two sectors. The first being government or public sector for policy making, infrastructure development, and large scale investments. The second one is the private sector, which is more profit driven, offering products and services and in turn generating employment for the population. The often lesser known sector is the third sector called the voluntary or community sector, which undertakes social activities. These are usually non-profit, privately held organizations. They don't provide financial benefit for their members or stakeholders. In other words, they are privately incorporated groups with a charitable purpose of non-profiting from their services. So today we are going to talk about them. Hello and welcome to the Honest Talk by Freak Folks. I'm Harsh Pandey. For this particular session, we have with us today very special guest today, Mr. Kunal Chauhan, sir. He is a lawyer by profession and wishes to dedicate his life to public service and create sustainable impact for people on the ground. He founded ITISARAS in 2016. The youth-led organization aims to create awareness for the culture and social political realities of India. He is also a TEDx speaker. Currently, he is working as an associate for the Chief Minister Haryana and posted at Kathal district. He mainly looking at the strategizing and implementation of schemes related to education, women and child development, agriculture, and tech in governance. So first of all, sir, I welcome you to in this session. Thank you so much for joining and actually agreeing to share your thoughts with us.
No, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me and have a subject.
Thank you, sir. It's our pleasure too. So moving to the topic of today's session, which we have chosen is the role non-profit partnerships play in social progress. But before actually going deep into this topic, sir, I want you to please explain to our viewers what does it mean. So my kind of a request to you is please explain to our viewers how this non-profit plays the actually crucial role in social progress of the country.
So when I talk about any kind of impact or any kind of work that is dealt around, there are different stakeholders that have an equal role. There is, of course, the government sector that takes care. That's the primary stakeholder whenever we talk about any kind of social impact. But then there are private players, and one of the private players is, of course, the non-for-profit or the members of the civil society. They are the ones who are doing it to create a social impact, but without getting much of a return in terms of the profitability. So there are any number of organizations who are going out of the way to create a social impact and not doing it for a fees in return. So yeah, that's largely is what like social sector or like civil society organizations are like in a very brief nutshell. Now talking about their space on social impact or their work around it. So many different organizations that are working with different objectives in different areas. There are organizations in healthcare, education, women and child development, so many wildlife conservation, environment protection, so many different examples. Even in fact, while I was talking about healthcare, so there are so many organizations that played such a significant role during the COVID pandemic, especially the second wave, when even the governments were struggling in getting the appropriate kind of resources for the people. So that is the time when a lot of members of the civil society came forward and helped the government, help the people, help the citizen. So very integral, because unless and until all the stakeholders don't take equation in working for in working for civil society or in working for the growth for the country, nothing is going to happen.
Indeed, sir. I think actually you have very beautifully covered and explained to our viewers. I'm sure the people those who are watching this session, they are also going to find this meaningful. Moving to the actually second question of the session. So my question to you is actually we all know that profit and purpose are converging. Only 80% of the millennials report that making a positive difference in the world is more important to them than a professional recognition. They no longer believe the primary purpose of the business should to make a profit, but rather to create social value. On the investor side, more and more shareholder demand tracking and reporting of both positive and negative externalities and compelling some of the largest corporation on the earth into action. So my question to you is, do you think the role of non-profit sector will grow at a fast rate in this upcoming next 5 years? Because this COVID pandemic have actually explained us the need and importance of this.
Oh, absolutely. I think now more than ever, people understand the value of non-profit sector, civil societies, and these organizations in providing growth and support to the society at large. I think the trend is really favorable for a lot of civil society organizations. The government has been favorable to these organizations. They have seen their work. It was not so much the case initially, but ever since the participation of civil society organizations during the second phase of the pandemic, when even the government was largely struggling,
Yes.
it is not a mystery to anybody. The government was largely struggling in providing any kind of support or relief to the people who were ailing at that point of time. And it was largely the civil society organization that were providing a support. So I'm sure like the role and the contribution of civil society as a whole and the non-profit as a sector is going to keep on increasing. More and more people are also leaving the conventional job and joining the social sector. There are a lot of internal changes that have also happened in the social sector. If I talk about it, initially when I started, like some couple of years ago, the sector was largely inorganized. It used to be treated more like a charity work, like you're just providing your service without much in return. But now, like, people are genuinely, like, people even within the sector, there's a lot more things are formalized a lot more. There's a proper setup in which even the non-for-profit sector organization exists. And I think this is all leading towards a very positive
Yes.
transformation for the social sector as a whole.
Exactly. I think there's really a great change if people actually started understanding this. And sir, my next question to you is we all know that social workers have immense impact on the communities and people that occupy them. Social workers can empower communities by encouraging individuals to take an active role in shaping social services, providing educational programs, and enabling economic independence in long terms. So, sir, my question to you is, in your opinion, how we can motivate our youth for social work? Actually, they are coming, but how we can actually do this in a mass level?
I think the more if they start participating in their local communities, I think that's how like the interest will also grow in this. So something that we kept on doing is like identifying local champions. So a lot can happen. So for example, let's say you're working in a school or in a local community, or you're working with any person. Just try to motivate them to start helping people even within the community. Once they start helping, so for example, let's say you're motivating a eighth grader to support children studying in class 5 or 6, and helping them out in whatever manner, supporting them, giving like some extra lessons to them. That's how they interest, because so children who started helping out their peers, their people from within the community, their interest in the social sector grew, and that's how they started working on the social sector as a whole. In a much more increased capacity. So yeah.
Indeed, sir. Actually, and sir, my next question to you is, now we have actually got the basic understanding, and I'm sure the people those are watching this session, they must have got the basic understanding how it works. So now the question comes here as how do you see the scope of entrepreneurship in this non-profit sector?
A lot. Like, this is a half a decade ago, social entrepreneurship was still pretty much growing. Like, it was struggling, but it was still growing. Right now, I think with social entrepreneurship, we have reached a point wherein people are really moving towards it. I see it with so many different friends. I have so many different colleagues of mine, so many different friends who are working in social entrepreneurship, and that's their main area of work. So they have given up their corporate jobs and have moved towards social entrepreneurship, be it towards creating recyclable packages for food, for food, or like so many different things that they're working on these days. So I think social entrepreneurship is increasing. It is also providing a lot of support to the community. There are a lot of linkages that are happening already with the self-help groups at the village level. So I think in the coming decade, we are going to see more and more social entrepreneurs. India is a land of startups. So, this is something that will keep on going, keep on increasing.
Indeed, this is really a very positive change, and I'm sure actually people will enter into this field more and more, and they will actually understand the importance of it. Answer my next question to you is because we all know it's the destiny of our future graduates to tackle some of the society's most urgent and pressing challenges. And entrepreneurs have the power to save the world by developing versatile skill sets and profitable business that are crucial to the progress of our economies. But question comes here is how just one does learn to be a successful entrepreneur? How do you inspire our young people to go out there and keep learning so they can mark on the world? Do we need to dedicate more resource to the formation of entrepreneurial environment within higher education environment that foster progressive ideas and innovation and equip students with the practical knowledge and skills they need to navigate the choppy water of business ownership?
So obviously, these kind of support, like extra classes on entrepreneurship, are definitely going to help. But then we also need to think about like how well-rounded a person's own understanding about these concepts are. So, for example, unless and until you don't have a practical understanding of these concepts, you cannot be a good entrepreneur. So, I'd just like to briefly talk about. So, whenever we talk about entrepreneurship, like one thing that I initially mentioned, the shift that has happened in the social sector is how largely unorganized it used to be a decade ago, and how it's moving towards a lot of organization structure. It's adapting towards a lot of professionalism as a sector at large. So same is going to be the case with entrepreneurship. Like if we are moving towards it, number one, people need to be a lot more practical. Then, and number two, they need to take it like a proper business. They need to be professional about it, and that conduct is going to be reflect in the kind of outcome that they're going to give. So if I talk about the former, if you are thinking like you genuinely need to think like an entrepreneur. Social is just like the objective, what the impact is going to be. But at the end of the day, you need to think about what is the feasibility of the project. So
Right.
a lot of people start projects with a lot of passion, but not with a lot of thought about the sustainability and feasibility of the project. You need to think whether, like, if I leave this project today, how far will the project go? I think that kind of thinking is something that we need more in the sector. I still see a lot of projects, great projects, but largely driven by passion, but not by logical thinking. So, like it needs to be both of them.
Yes. Indeed, sir. Actually, you have defined this. And sir, my next question to you is because you have started your own venture, and I'm sure you have actually gained this all experience and actually worked in this all sectors. My question to you is, or it would be great if you could take some of your personal life experiences. How do you define the importance of networking in both personal and professional life?
So I think this is we are moving towards the time of networking. I was still in college. I was in college when I made a profile on LinkedIn. I believe that's how we connected, and this is something that we really need, especially the young people who genuinely, and the young people who don't come from these legacy families, who don't have who are first generation entrepreneurs or are venturing into the sector for the very first time. They need to really connect with other people. The amount of time where a lot of other people's efforts have helped me in venture in creating a lot of impact for the work that I am doing, that's innumerable. And that kind of support we need more and more in the society at large. At the end of the day, we need to remember that the objective of our work is social impact, and we really need to come together as a society to create the social impact. And in today's digital world, you need to be connected with people. You need to get on more and more connected with people with the help of social media. Networking is a great asset for it. though like we have been living in COVID for 2 years, but prior to that, I used to attend a lot of mixers. Like I met so many bright young people over there, have so many great conversations, uh, challenging conversations. Like unless and until you don't meet people who challenge your thinking process, you
Yes.
don't. It doesn't. Uh, y- uh, you really don't challenge why you are thinking the way that you're thinking. So that kind of challenge is very much required. Uh, and that is something that a lot of networking helps with. So I like whosoever is watching this, please go online. I know like a lot of us are a little bit averse to social media due to its all the ill effects, but if there are ill effects, there are some positive effects as well. Just you need to pick and choose. Like I try to look at the positives. I get acquainted with a lot of people who are doing good work, great work, get inspired by them, share my learnings with them, and on that journey learn a little bit.
Indeed, sir. Actually, I loved it when you said that, when you actually explained to our viewers the importance of challenging thinking process, and I'm sure they got this point. And sir, moving to my last question of this session, actually, you talked a lot about youth. So my question to you is, we all are actually know and very much familiar about this. Youth is a time of enormous energy. A lot of youth are in confused state of mind. The youth of today's generation need clarity and balance. They have become the victim of social media information overload. Everywhere there's a compulsion. They are addicted to smoking, alcohol, drugs, and gruesome video materials. There has been substance abuse like never before. So, in your opinion, what are the small efforts we can practice to bring an awareness among the youth, just to remind them of their enormous energies and how to balance them and lead their life well?
It's all about channelizing energy. Like now more than ever, like, and especially during the time of COVID, like everybody has been at home for largely around 2 years now. Like I believe like some of the universities just started opening up right now.
Right.
A lot of the schools are still existing in a virtual mode. So there is a lot of pent up energy in everybody. It's all about how you're channelizing them together as a society. So it's all about identifying those areas in which we can positively channelize those energy. And there are a lot of sessions that we at ITISARAS conduct with youth. They are around the area of identity formation. We conduct
Sure.
legal literacy sessions. We write. We encourage more and more people to write, read. So it's all about like it's a community effort. You can't individually pick and choose
Right.
one particular individual, but yeah, it's something that you together target the society at large. Something that I talk about now because you mentioned social media, like I was recently having a conversation with a friend about social media and how so two people on the same social media networking platform can have two very different experiences. It's all about the kind of bubble that you create yourself. Obviously social media is a bubble, but then it also depends on like the kind of bubble that you're creating for yourself. If you are creating a bubble just around influencers and the effect is going to be very 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 different. On my social
Right.
media, I have largely two or three things. There are a lot of memes, there are pictures and videos of a lot of dogs, and then there are a lot of news channels. So that's all I want to anytime I go to Instagram, those are the three things that I consume. And that is something that like I know like that is the perfect balance for me. Now that may differ for each and every person, so like try to find your balance, make sure that it's a little bit tilting towards the positive. And yeah, like especially when we are talking about social media, it is what you are making it out to be. At the end of the day, social media is nothing. You want to make it into a very toxic space, it is going to become a very toxic space. You want to make it a positive space, you want to learn a lot more, you are going to learn a lot from social media. So it's all about that. Regarding the youth, just try to channelize your energy in a positive constructive manner. And I'm sure like like we'll be seeing the we'll see society as a whole progress in great manner.
Indeed, sir. I think you have actually very beautifully conveyed the message about channelizing the energy, and I'm sure they must have understood this. And thank you so much, sir, for joining and giving your important time. It was a kind of a healthy conversation with you over the topic, and we look forward to conduct more such sessions with you in future. And again, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been great talking to you, and like I'm sure like whosoever is watching this is able to take some good insights from my
Yes.
from this conversation. So yeah, like all the very best. Take care of yourselves, and yeah, just go out there, try to do some positive work for the people outside.
Right. This is really a great message. Thank you so much, sir. Bye.
On the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside, I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside, I'm alone.